Hello everybody, Michael Maven here. So this morning I was having a conversation with somebody who works in a super huge industry, right? When I say huge industry, okay, I just took a look online. Apparently they have 22,000 employees. This is a huge company, okay? And I was talking to somebody pretty high up in this company, and I said, I was just talking about some of their recent marketing efforts, things that they were doing, and I was having a conversation with that person about split testing and something that, work that they were doing right now to get people into one of their process, their funnels. And I happened to take a look into some of the details, and I said, listen, how are you guys running these ads? Because, you need to sort of, I'll just give them a bit of sort of coaching, some strategy work. And they said, well, no, it's okay. We've the people who are running these ads, they're split testing the ads, so don't worry, it's okay. And I said, how are they split testing the ads? Out of interest, because obviously this is my area of sort of specialty. And they said, they're testing the background colors of the pages and things, and the ads, and really, really small tweaks like that. And I said, this is a real problem, you know that? And they said, oh, why is that? And I said, because when you're running split tests, you don't want to be testing small things like minor changes, like colors. And sometimes people are testing like background colors and button colors and things like that. And although yes, you can achieve sometimes a big lift by doing things like testing colors and stuff like that, it's a big problem, because if you can achieve, just think for yourself, right? If you can achieve a 30% lift in conversion, let's just say, by changing the background color on a button or on a web page or something like that, on an ad, then imagine the sort of gains that you can get if you actually did a bit of research and made the changes like that, right? But people don't do that. So this is kind of, today I'm going to be explaining a little bit more into this. This is a big problem with split testing. It's a huge, even recently I was talking to another client of mine, and I was explaining this, and they wanted to just continuously run test, and just, get lots of minor wins. But I said, this is a real problem, because sometimes when you test like that, unfortunately, the problem is that when you test based on guesswork, which a lot of people do split test based on guesswork, if those changes are made via guesswork, a lot of the times what I've tend to found is that 25% of the time you get a lift, 25% of the time you actually hurt results, and 50% of the time you really don't get any change whatsoever. So in total, 75% of the time you get an outcome which is really not helpful, okay, if you base your split tests on guesswork. Okay, so that's a big problem, right? So let's go over to the screen and I'll walk you through some of my thoughts on this, okay? Now this is a small section of an article that I wrote a long time ago, and it's amazing to see that people are still kind of doing this today, okay? But when you're running split tests and designing new web pages, you got to make sure that you don't make the mistake of focusing on what I call squeaks and roars. Okay, so it's a little bit like you might have heard, like sometimes I've heard this called, the whispers and the screams. Okay, but how I've really kind of come to get to know it is, the squeaks and the roars. Okay, so a squeak is an element on the page that it only makes a really small difference in conversion rate. Okay, it only makes a small difference to the outcome that you're trying to get. Okay, so here we go. For an example, we've got change the background color of your website. It can produce, incremental improvements, right? And you really don't want minor improvements. You want big wins, right? So here's an example that, Gary Halbert, once he noted that when he started putting extra order forms in his direct mail packages, he'd send out all these packages in the mail, and he'd add order forms, right, to those mail packages so that people could place an order and then have to post it back in, and that's what we call a response, right? But he actually realized that, adding another order form, slightly lifted response, and adding another order form, slightly lifted response. But that's not the sort of thing that, that's not how you want to really approach split testing. Okay, these kind of wins, those are minor wins. Okay, those are squeaks, right? Imagine the kind of gains he could have got by actually, adding in some real, doing a little bit of research and really putting in something which made a big lift. Okay, he could, rather than making 10% or 20%. I mean, he wouldn't have. He said he got 1% lift with the extra order forms, but he could have been doing work which got a 10% or a 20% lift. Okay, just by doing the extra research, right? So if you a 1% response is so small. If you got 1% response rate and you're looking to break even, okay, with a 2% response rate, adding additional order forms won't produce the win you need, okay? Because the 1%, if it's going to be such a slight lift. In this case, if you had a 1% response rate, an additional 1% of that percent, okay, is not going to take you to anywhere near 2%. Okay, you need to double from 1% to 2%, right? So adding auto extra forms is not going to get you to do that, right? So the point here is, do not aim for minor wins. Stay away from the squeaks. Okay. Now a raw, obviously, if you have a squeak on one end of the scale, a raw is on the opposite end of the scale. Okay. It's a specific factor on a web page that has the potential to boost conversion rates by 100% or more. That's what really, if you're going to do a test, aim for those big wins. Okay. You want to grow by 100%. Okay, or try and aim at least to grow by 100%. And some people think, how am I supposed to do that? But you can do that without the guesswork. It's more research based. Okay, but here's a few examples: switching to a higher quality traffic source, yeah, or even changing your ads so that you allow less people in, but more targeted, so that the people who come in, they're actually more the kind of people that you want, right? So changing the quality of the people, the traffic that comes in, that could work, right? You could change the headline of a page, which is, if you have a headline at the top of the page which is really missing, sometimes just changing that one single factor can actually as soon as people land on your page and your website, or wherever you bring them in from, and wherever you bring them to, they know straight away, this is what I'm looking for. Okay, and sometimes that might even mean that you're grouping your ads. You might have 3 or 4 different landing pages, and different groups of people visiting those. And as soon as you start your page off, you could be saying something like, hey, are you a student looking to? Right? And then you have people in the workplace, or maybe an education course, and then you say, hey, are you in the workplace and you're looking to learn about? Right? So the student traffic has a student-related headline on the page. The people who are working for themselves or working in the workforce, they may have a headline targeted to people in the workforce. So as soon as someone lands there, you are targeting these people very, very tightly. Okay, that can make huge changes to a web page. Okay, and an offer, and how much you bring in with that offer. You can also add upsells, continuity offers. That can make big changes. Changing your bonus gifts, okay, what are you giving away, and even switching the offer to free trials, or these are kind of big things that these are all raws. Okay, they can make big differences to your response rates. Now this is just a quick example of a previous raw test that was done, and that was the test for price. Okay, a product. So here's just a quick definition of the raw. A $139 for a product was being sold for $139, and that was changed to $159. And that was also tested with the $169. Okay, and these are the results that we got with $159. So for an extra $20, that's a 14% lift per order, by the way. Okay, so they got the exact same response in terms of the number of people who bought. Okay, so previously you were missing out on $20 for every single order. Okay, and for adding on just one more extra slab of $10, yeah, to take it to $169, the response dropped by half. Okay, so you're missing out on a huge amount of money just for extra $10. So over here, the optimum price point that was tested got you an extra 14%. Okay, yes, it's not 100%, but these kind of tests also, what you can do is you can stack up these sort of tests. So one test here that got 14%, another test that's getting 20%, another test that's getting 10%, another big test like the offer, or the guarantees and things. You're working on big things like that, and working on trust building factors on web pages and in your office and on your wherever your sales material is. These kind of things, they can all stack up, and that's how you get those big 100% jumps that I spoke about earlier. So yeah, this is just an example here that was where you were split testing a raw, and that way when you're running real split tests, they all stack up. It will really mean something. Also, when you run split tests like this, when you stack up the raws, you're going to get results like split tests that really push your results up a lot quicker, and also you're going to see faster improvements, and you'll run the tests much more quickly, because the differences between the tests, they're so big that the results will take you less time to achieve. Okay, if you don't do that, you can be running like maybe 2, 4, 6 cycles, which can take you a lot more time to actually get the results you need. So it's important also when you're running split tests that you do the work quickly and you get the results in as quick as you can. So it also, and that makes you look better as someone who's running these growth experiments. Another thing Another thing to remember here is to focus on tests which are really just, simple and cost-free to run. Okay, so you might think, oh, we need to do make a change on the back end, and someone else, an executive might come in and say, we need to use an entirely new CMS system. And if you think about how long that's going to take to implement, it's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of time for the team to sort of get used to how to use a new CMS. There's a lot of change there that really that everyone's going to have to adapt to. So that's going to take a lot of time, take money, take a lot of energy. Okay, whereas if you focus on these kind of tests that you can just make in the offer, you can literally, like I said, if you stack up the raw tests, then you can actually stack them up and really get some, start increasing your sales by 50% to 100%. That's very, very common actually, and the way that you do that is with a research-based process. Okay, you got to really learn to understand the customer, figure out why they're not buying, what's tripping them up, and look to fix that in your sales processes. Finally, another thing to be doing is look at your previous research as well. Okay, for example, you might realize that you're selling a product right now that doesn't really truly meet 100% of the needs of the customer. In which case you can either add those additions into the product, or you can just create a completely new product which does meet the additional needs. Okay, and you can put that into that sales funnel, and probably you can see big increases in conversion. That will take a little bit longer, of course, but if you really understand and you do your research, this is all a research-based process, and if you understand your customer and truly know what they need and understand the kind of problems they're trying to solve by buying your products, as you can address that more and more and make your sales process tighter and base it around their exact needs and the problems they're trying to solve, and you will increase your conversions overall in a long period of time. You'll increase even more than increasing your conversions, you'll increase your sales, and that's way more important than increasing conversions. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay, it's very important, honestly, to be focusing on it's a small shift in your split testing strategy, but it really can help you to be the difference between generating an extra 10 or 15% versus generating an extra 50, 60, 70, or even doubling your sales. Okay, so I hope that was useful, and I'll be back with another video next week. Thanks for watching.